Welcome to episode 67 of the Serial Chillers podcast from the Super Network studio. Hella Greg is not here. He is running from government helicopters in his helicopter.
I get it.
Yeah, so he won't be here tonight.
Hold on, high five.
Killing it.
Yep.
Puns.
But we have two gentlemen who have been here before. Welcome back to the show, Paul and Curtis.
Thank you.
Ooh.
High five for that, too.
Yes.
Roll.
And welcome for the first time to the show, Michael.
Glad to be here.
Glad to have you. Well, you guys already know how the show works, but let me explain it for anybody that doesn't. Each week I sit down with old friends, new friends, good friends, and bad friends to tell them the story of an infamous serial killer. Throughout the show, you guys can chime in on my story, and if you have a story of your own that you brought, it's true crime, dark, creepy, unsolved, or otherwise mysterious, please feel free to share it. Lastly, if you have questions about questions, make sure to ask questions because I cannot answer questions about questions if you never ask questions. Are there any questions?
Not quite yet.
I always have questions.
What are they?
Well, they're not relevant to this.
Then welcome to and let's play the Serial Chillers podcast. Today, our serial killer, one not very well known. Tell me, have you guys heard of Hadden Clark?
Who hasn't?
Son of a bitch, I haven't.
I have. I Googled them before this.
Here's the thing, Michael, is I knew of your prowess before you got here, so I had to go deep dive. I wasn't going to give you a heavy hitter right off the bat. I couldn't let you come in here and handle these guys.
Whoa,
so.
I'm a veteran of this show.
Of the show, yeah. Not of watching true crime murder porn all day.
No, I did watch a ghost show recently.
Well, was it fictional?
Aren't all ghost
Didn't
shows?
look like it.
It didn't look alike. Aren't all ghost shows fictional? Curtis, it can be argued, yes. So, it starts this way every time. Question number 1. In what year was Hadden Clark born?
That wasn't high enough for me.
Yeah, I don't know if I can go higher tonight. I'm just like, in what year?
There we go.
Can you give
Closest
me a
to the answer gets 250 points.
hint? You want to give me a hint?
No.
You
Great
get
question about a question, though. All right, Curtis, what do you got?
1953.
Ooh, Curtis says 53. Michael says 56. Paul says 64. Everybody in the wheelhouse, huh? God damn.
But who was right?
Someone was within 1 year of scoring 1,000 points off
Thanks,
the bat,
guys.
and
Thanks,
it was
guys.
not Paul. So, Paul, you will get no points for this. Let me put your X right here. Curtis, 250 points because Hadden Clark was born July 31st, 1952. Very close, Curtis. So Curtis is going to take a lead. We've got 12 questions tonight. Plenty of time for somebody to make a comeback. July 31st, 1952, the birth of Hadden Clark, the second child of 4. He was born in Troy, New York, and was raised there as well. Not a lot about his childhood. Some of them we got down to the day they fucking started school and all the way throughout, Jeff Dahmer. And some we were like, oh, he did this, he fell off his bike once and he hurt his head. And then when he started killing people.
Hold on. They know when he fell off of his bike,
Well, head injury is a big thing with serial
but not
killers.
when he started school. Don't listen to him.
It's not that they don't know when he started school. I'm just saying that for some serial killers, when you look up the history, I like to consider this a history
I've
podcast.
always
We're
said
talking about, essentially a historical event. It may be dark history, but it's that in and of itself. There are some, like Jeff Dahmer or like Ted Bundy, they are the, let's call them rock stars of the serial killer world. The story is so well documented that you can like choose a date and you can look on the timeline and you can know, roughly where you might find Jeff Dahmer that day. This serial killer, Hadden Clark, is not quite that way throughout his childhood. Like I said, we've got a few events, and I've got a couple things about him, but it's not as well documented as he is. A little more under the radar as one of our serial murderers we'll talk about throughout the series.
I think that makes him one of the better serial killers.
It's debatable.
You never.
I accept
never
your
find
answer
out.
to my question.
What's that?
I accept your answer to my question.
Terrific. So, he, at around 7, he rammed his brother off of his bike. So they're riding bikes together. And you know the classic, this is like how I imagine it if I had to do a little reenactment of this. They're riding, and he comes up, and you like hit your front tire into their back tire and do the. And sometimes you could like get them real loose off it and push them off. Paul doesn't know what we're talking about. But he wrecked his brother on his bike, and his brother went down hard, and he was bleeding out of his head. So Hadden smashed his ass back to the house, and he's like, Mom, we had a bad accident. Jeff fell down, but don't worry, my bike is fine. And like went to his room. Like didn't even mention anything about his brother out on the sidewalk bleeding. This is just to give you an idea of where we are empathetically. Paul's like feeling it right now. He likes this kid.
You're gonna tell me you haven't rode a bike and stuck like a branch in somebody else's spokes?
Yeah. Come on.
I'm not saying I haven't done that. I'm saying what he did was hilarious. Hey, Mom, he's not dead, but he's definitely in need of a hospital. I'm gonna go play some video games.
He didn't even say that though. He was like, "Hey, we had an accident out there. Don't trip though. My bike's good. Like it's fine. We're good."
It was probably an expensive bike. Mom at least spent an entire Christmas present.
And
on
it's
it.
possible because they were a slightly affluent family. It seems like in a lot of what we're talking about that they sound like dirt farmers, but they're not. They have some money. They have some clout. It's not a lot, but it's enough to where they definitely didn't live through the worst of times. Let's say. His mother's name is Flavia. She claims to have ancestors that she could trace all the way back to the Mayflower. Damn, Flavia.
That's a good vote.
Also, some of her relatives include heroes from the Revolutionary War. Yeah. So throughout Hadden's life, his mother is going to blame his strange behavior on a bad forceps child delivery, which she said had given him a head injury. So I don't think this is practiced too often anymore, but when a breech birth happened, they used to use tongs, pretty much like forceps. Sounds optional, but
Preferred.
Yeah, so that's how his mom tries to explain it away through most of his life. Like, well, they crushed his head. Like he had a traumatic head injury from before he was fully exited the womb. So there you go. We, like Michael said,
Trying to be part of the McDonald triad, eh?
yeah, a head injury is an important part of the equation when it comes to what you might find in creating a serial killer.
That's what I was trying to say earlier. You guys misunderstood. Do me a favor. Don't go back and check that, though.
I will not. So I already told you I won't. Yeah, so I'm not sure how substantiated it is, but that's what his mom says. His mother brought him to the Yale University's Child Study Center, and he would go there a few times between the ages of 4 and 7. The doctor would say that he had cerebral palsy and perhaps some mild brain damage. This is essentially the last we're ever going to hear about him having cerebral palsy, which I found very weird. So he gets misdiagnosed in the beginning, let's just say. The brain damage, though, might corroborate the bad forceps delivery a little bit. Help us out there. His father began to call him, quote, the retard when he was going to these studies. So his dad's an alcoholic, asshole, motherfucking piece of shit. His parents were slightly abusive, but like I said, they were both educated, normal functioning human beings. His dad actually had an MBA and a PhD in chemistry. The bullying that he had throughout his life probably started with his own father, but definitely did not end there. Throughout his childhood, Hadden was bullied and often to an extreme level. He was not a very physically opposing child, but he did his best to get revenge when he could. Question number 2. How did Hadden most often get back at the bullies who teased and hurt him? Was it A, poison their food, B, hit them when they weren't looking, C, saved money and paid someone to beat them up, or D, killed their pets? Poisoned their food, hit them when they weren't looking, saved money and paid someone to beat them up, killed their pets.
Oh, see, I thought I knew this answer, and then you did the last two. Now I'm just confused.
Means I'm a good question writer. Sup?
I like the one where he hits them when they're not looking. That seems the funniest.
To me, too.
Right. It's not what I wrote down.
Okay. Very good. Curtis.
I chose that one. B.
So Michael and Curtis both say B. Paul goes with the extreme, kills their pets. Very dark, Paul.
Sometimes you got to kill an animal. You don't.
You do, because that'll score you 250 points.
Sometimes you got to kill a pet, guys. As long as it was
Official
a cat.
stance of the Serial Chillers podcast, please don't kill pets.
Unless it's a cat.
No, so he would find and decapitate the pets of children who teased him.
Damn.
Besides the animals of Bullies that he was taking care of, he also set traps out in the forest so he could take those animals and, very Jeff Dahmer-like, go dissect them and just kind of see what was inside and what made them tick and, you know, what kind of tasty morsels he might find. Who knows? One of the animals, I guess he couldn't kill, was a raccoon. He learned a talent. Its name is Lucky. His name is Lucky, and he can water ski. That raccoon was lucky because it learned a talent, or who knows what might have done, or what Hadden might have done. It would essentially just perch on top of his head, and no matter where Hadden walked, the raccoon could kind of balance it out. So he just had a raccoon, and then he could walk around on the top of his head. I back that. As a raccoon fan, I think I'd like maybe more on my shoulders. I'd feel more secure with that, but probably. Yes, I'd like a shoulder raccoon, please.
What? How old was he here?
At this point, he is like in his young to early teens.
Oh,
You fucking imagine a teenager walking around with a raccoon on
he's getting all the ladies. That's what I'm getting at.
I don't think that you're correct.
Have you not seen women flock to a raccoon?
So let me just read you this
I
next
think you're
line.
thinking hedgehogs.
Most of his early childhood, his mother and father always expressed to him their deep regret, the fact that he was not a female. They both wanted a daughter. His mother would dress him in frilly girls' clothing and addressed him as Kristen when she would get drunk. So his mom and dad would have him dressed up in girl clothes and like, sit down, Kristen, and drink your drink before you go to bed, okay? Emotionally unstable. He's a small child that lashed out when he was publicly criticized as well. He had a very abusive childhood, as we can see. Both of his parents are extreme alcoholics, and they would fight physically in front of him and his brothers and sisters. Not, because I gotta say, there's a time and a place for verbal argument between you and your loved one, and it's not in front of your goddamn kids. There is no time and place for you to throw hands with your husband or wife. So, a second official stance to your Chillers podcast tonight. Go ahead and avoid domestic disturbances at all costs. He's in an emotionally unstable household. He's abused. In his early teens, he's discovered by both parents wearing the women's clothing by his own choice. Weeks after that, he was involved in a peeping Tom incident that resulted in a police charge. His father tried to change him by beating him with a belt when he would come out of the shower or bathtub naked. His dad thought that his skin would be a little softer coming out of the bathtub, and that's when he'd get him at his most vulnerable. So he'd whip his goddamn ass with the belt as he was coming out, trying to beat the peeping Tom cross-dresser out of him, I guess.
That's not normal.
Typical.
Yeah.
I feel like you have to catch him in the act to really.
He's like, they're like a dog.
Yeah.
Yeah, children are like dogs.
Yeah.
1964, he's now 14 years old.
my experience.
He claims to have murdered his first victim at this point, a boy around his age. We have no information around this, but he says that his father helped him cover up this murder. Again, not a lot of details about it. It's one of these things where he's most likely a serial confessor. We get a lot of those around these parts. But I'd be remiss if I didn't report that. 1972, he's now 21 years old. See how far we skipped? He's not doing shit. He's 21.
That we know of.
He graduates high school and was the oldest person in his class as he had been held back 3 times.
Ooh, that's impressive.
21 for the graduation of high school. Yes, that is quite old. Spring of 1974, he's 23 years old. Question number 3. After he's done with high school and gets through a couple of, let's just call them years abroad, he attends a trade school. For what trade? A, plumbing. B, construction. C, culinary arts. Or D, auto mechanic. Plumbing, construction, culinary arts, auto mechanic. What is it going to be? What's it going to be?
What happened to the raccoon?
Who knows? Most likely dissected.
Probably ate him.
See.
Curtis and Michael are on the same wavelength right now. They both say culinary arts. I just love the liquid U there. Paul said a plumber. Paul, let's just go ahead and put your X here.
Sad day. Can I
Curtis
explain
and-
why I didn't pick culinary arts?
Yes.
I feel like he
Dumbass.
would have eaten the people, and I feel like he would have been a much bigger serial killer had he actually eaten the people.
Terrible logic. Curtis and Michael get 250 points. Because he actually went to kind of like a prestigious culinary school. He went to the Culinary Institute of America. So he didn't.
part of it. It's
Yeah,
really nice.
he didn't like go to like he didn't go to like the Institute of Technology and take their culinary course. You know, no shit talking on the IT guys, but comparatively, this is actually is like a very high end culinary school. He would say that he would also get bullied throughout culinary school. On one occasion, he was set to cook for everybody. He decided that he was going to mess with the food of everyone who bullied him. Quick 2, question number 4. What did he do to his classmates' food? Was it A, semen in the clam chowder, B, pee in the mashed potatoes, C, spit in everyone's drinks, or D, dog feces in a meatloaf?
Nope.
There was no stab option anyway. You weren't going to get anything.
What
Was it semen in the clam chowder, pee in the mashed potatoes, spit in everyone's drinks, or dog feces in a meatloaf?
Saw something on Facebook today that somebody who got bullied in the school put laxatives in the food. It wasn't him. Why are you hiding your answer? Like we don't all have it written
Shut
down
up,
already.
dickhead. Yeah.
For some reason, I just had semen.
All right,
there. That's
so
why I read this.
Michael and Paul both say he put some dog shit in the meatloaf.
Dog doo doo.
Curtis was like, dude, he put some of that white stuff in the white stuff.
Can I
That's fucking
tell
Fight
you why
Club.
he's
Come
wrong?
on.
Can I tell you why you're all wrong?
No, you can't because I'm right.
Nope, you're all wrong. He pissed in the mashed
That
potatoes.
was my next guess.
You'd have to have so much semen.
He
It only takes
urinated.
a little bit to cross
Not
contaminate.
if you're trying to do it right.
He urinated into vats of mashed potatoes in retaliation
Don't
against slights
millions
against him.
of semen come out. Little spermies.
All right, so that's a story for another day. We're all pretty aware of, I think, how that works. After graduation, he wouldn't keep a job for any longer than a few months at a time. Fucking no way, right? This guy? Not a chance. Between 74 and 82, that's 8 years, guys. Do the math. He held 14 different jobs. So,
Killing it.
yeah, he's doing almost 2 jobs a year.
Dedicated.
Was he doing like 7 months per job over an 8-year period? That doesn't sound very pleasing, you know. In addition to this, during this span, his grandfather dies. He wasn't incredibly close with him. However, Grandpa was far nicer to Hadden than his parents were. So he had some fond memories, even though he wasn't very close to him. His grandmother, who he loved very much, would enter a nursing home due to poor health. That also hurt him quite a bit. It's all really kind of going downhill for him at this point. To add to it all, his parents finally decide to get a divorce. Now, he was in his mid-20s at this time, and he's an adult, but it still can't be easy to see your parents separate. A short time after the divorce, his father dies from cancer, so it only gets worse. He gets some small-time employment in Cape Cod, and later he will confess to have killed several women in the sand dunes nearby. He claimed he murdered a woman, burying her nude under the sand dune by first removing her hands and the wrists and using fingers as experimental bait for surf fishing. Later, he will attempt to lead police to the bodies that he had buried out on the dunes. He's a little old, but still accepted. Question number 5. He's going to join the military. Which branch? 3 navies. You guys all think he's a seaman. And you're all going to score points. Great job, guys. Great intuition on the sea. He found the sea.
After the whole fishing thing, you know.
Okay, so that's going to be 500 for Michael, 500 for Paul, 750 points for Curtis. We're one question away from halfway. That's right. He's employed with the U.S. Navy. He is hired as a below-deck cook. During his time with the Navy, he will be bullied and beat by fellow sailors for wearing frilly underwear under his uniform with no attempt to hide it.
Sometimes you gotta feel sexy.
When has this guy not been bullied?
Well,
That's a legitimate
I think
question.
really at this point you're like on a boat of men and you're putting on women's underwear and kind of flaunting it. I'm not saying that he deserved to get his ass kicked, but if there were a place where you were probably going to get your ass kicked for doing such a thing, it seems like possibly a boat in the middle of the ocean.
Here's the thing. If he had still had a raccoon, he'd have been fine.
He needed the raccoon.
Think about
Raccoons
it.
do not like the water.
I've seen at least 2 videos of a raccoon swimming in water.
And there's that one with the
Trying to
raccoons
get
trying
out
to
of
get the rain from the car window. Seen that?
Right. I haven't seen it. Gonna look it up. Thanks.
Trying to get out of the water.
You just like keep swimming and then
You
you just walk
shut
out.
your mouth when you're talking to me, Curtis.
Oh, you mean like an ocean?
Okay.
All bodies of water.
Curtis's
So-
arguments are null and void.
He still loved to dress in women's clothing. Although he had a uniform now, he would still do whatever he could to be wearing his frilly women's underwear. During one altercation in the Navy, and sail the 7 seas, he was locked in a meat freezer for 3 hours by fellow sailors. In another incident where he was being hazed for his choices, he got a concussion from his head being repeatedly banged against the aircraft carrier deck. That sounds like attempted murder to me, but, do what you do, sailors.
It's a good time.
A good time, Paul says. In 1984, Hadden's older brother, Bradfield, he just went by Brad, in California, would commit a serious crime. He invited a couple that he knew over for dinner. He had the hots for this chick, but she was married, but he was like, whatever, I'll see what I can pull off here. I'm going to invite him over. But some crazy random happenstance, the husband said that he cannot make it. But the wife, who was also a friend of Brad, decided that she'd go on her own. The night was normal, with a lot of drinking, but at some point the mood would change, and Brad would attack the woman. When the woman never returned home, her husband called the police, and they first went to Brad Clark's residence. Upon a quick inspection of Bradfield's home, the police knew something was amiss. Not long into the search, they would open Bradfield's trunk of the car out in the driveway, and inside was the body of the woman they were looking for. As they investigated further, they were able to find the evidence that Bradfield had cannibalized his victim. This incident was very upsetting to Hadden, and people close to him said that it changed him.
Paul, you were right. It's just the brother you were thinking of. And wanting to eat them.
Right.
I mean,
I don't know why people don't listen to me. I'm really
so
smart.
let's think like tomorrow you get a call and it says your brother's just killed somebody and he's cannibalized them. Do you think like you'd be like,
Duh.
all right? I think it might seriously fuck you up to think about, or
What brother?
yeah.
Jared. Duh.
Weird how all these pictures are cut in half now.
Okay, so June 22nd, 1985. He is going to be discharged from the Navy after a visit from the Navy doctor. Question number 6. For what reason was he discharged? Was it an injured back, drug use, paranoid schizophrenia, or he was accidentally shot? Injured back, drug use, diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia, he was accidentally shot. One of these 4 is the answer. 3 of them are not.
Drug use.
Michael says paranoid schizophrenia. Curtis says drug use. Paul says an injured back. Well, Paul said old man back, but I knew what he meant. Mm-hmm. And Michael will tie
Gets
the
an
lead
X.
up.
I thought you said you were good at this, Paul.
Too specific.
just said
Too
I'm a winner.
specific, yes. So
I just said I'm a
he
winner.
gets a visit by the Navy doctor, and he says, I'm sorry, sir. You are a paranoid schizophrenic, and you can no longer be in the Navy. In October of 1985, he's now 34 years old. He confessed to killing Sarah Pryor in Wayland Field, but that has never been confirmed. He didn't confess at the time. I'm just putting it in the timeline. Later, he's going to confess to it, this time murdering somebody non-corroborated. February of 86, he is arrested for shoplifting several pairs of women's underwear. May of 1986, his brother asks him to move out of their home because he was caught masturbating in front of his niece and nephew. So he's living with his brother and his 2 young kids, and he's jerking his dick in front of his niece and nephew. You are not allowed to do that. So, yeah, let's take a break right there. So I think that's a good spot to do it. We'll come back.
Drink after that.
Curtis is going to tell us a little story, and we'll continue the story of Hadden Clark because he's fuckface. Come back or I'll kill you. Hey guys, if you're ever interested in how you could support the show, we just wanted to let you know that patreon.com/serialchillerspodcast is the way to do it. If you feel like the show deserves anything and any right, if you've ever enjoyed it for even a second, you can give as little as $1 a month to help the wheels keep on turning. We really appreciate it, and thanks for the support in advance. Patreon.com/serialchillerspodcast. Welcome back, everybody, to episode 67 of the Serial Chillers podcast. We're going to continue with this story of Hadden Clark, but before we do that, our good friend Curtis, Cuddy, if you will, the biscuit, if you might, has brought us a story, and I'm just going to sit back and listen. Curtis, tell me what you got. Show me what you got.
Well, this is an interesting story I stumbled across because I recently moved to Chowchilla, and so I was kind of weirded
Giving
out.
away your location like that?
I mean, Chowchilla is a big town.
Right off the golf course.
At least 10 people.
At least 10 people. 1 in 10 chance. I'll take those odds. Anyway, so I was interested to see that 40 years ago, a little over 40 years ago, there's this kidnapping that happened to 26 children and a bus driver as they were coming back to their elementary school there during the summer from the community pool. And these 3 guys kidnapped them, ditched the bus into a, I forget what it's called, like a slough or something. I don't know what that is.
It's like a ditch.
Yeah, there you go.
Tractor.
You're a trout.
Anyway, and then they drive them around in these 2 vans for 11 hours, just driving around.
With the kids?
Yeah, with the kids and the driver and everything. I imagine you'd have to stop for gas at some point in that, but
11 out. Well, maybe if it's one of those huge fucking econo lines, you might be able to get tree fitty for him out.
I mean, this is 1976 too. So
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, you seem suspect, Curtis. I'm with you.
Yeah. Anyway, so they drive around for 11 hours. Eventually, they wind up in Lemoore at this quarry.
Lemoore.
Yep.
At the quarry.
Yeah, at the quarry. Yeah, and they basically bury them alive into this this box truck. Yeah, they bury them alive. They got on the top. There's roof access on the truck, but they have that covered with like heavy batteries and stuff. And I don't know. It's crazy. It was a moving van, and inside the moving van was food and water and some mattresses and like a makeshift toilet. And then basically they were in there. The kids in the bus driver were in there like 16 hours. And you know,
Was
the
it a
food
ransom plot?
It was a ransom plot. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Apparently the school system had a surplus in their budget of like a couple $1 million, and so they were going to ransom the kids for that surplus.
Oh.
Yeah.
So these people had inside knowledge of that surplus.
Yeah, I think it was like posted in the paper or something.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, because it's all public record.
Give us the money, baby. We got your fucking kids.
Yeah.
And we'll solve your budget crisis.
Yeah.
Don't get solar panels. That's trendy.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So then there's 16 hours. You know, they run out of food. The kids are all freaking out and everything. It's just terrible for the kids. They're all, even to this day, they're all scarred by it. And you read the follow-up stories on them. You know, they're taking their own kids to school, and they follow that bus to the school now. Like, you know, they're crazy. Just it broke a bunch of them. But anyway, yeah, it is. Anyway, they were in there 16 hours. Eventually, the bus driver and the kids they stacked the mattresses together, and the bus driver forces his way out of the top, knocks off the batteries and everything and some of the dirt that was covering it. And they're able to get all the kids out, and they sneak over to a guard shack on like a nearby park. And then they all call for help and everything. And luckily, I mean, they got lucky. The bus driver remembered one of the plates off one of the vans when he saw it. And, the truck was registered to the quarry's, the owner's son. So that was kind of a dead giveaway. Yeah.
But it seems not that well thought out.
No, it wasn't. I mean, they had weapons and everything too. But they use them. They ended up getting sentenced to life sentences. But now that there's been one of the judges like ruled to let them out on parole. So 2 of the other guys got out on parole because the judge basically said that they didn't use the weapon, so they didn't cause any bodily harm.
Right.
But I mean, you have all that mental anguish and everything, so it's just messed up. I would think that just that alone.
Physical harm maybe isn't the end of the line, Your Honor.
Yeah. So the main guy, though, he's...
Your Honor. There are air quotes on that.
Yeah, he's been denied because he's had a couple infractions and everything with, like, having pornography and illegal cell phones and stuff. But he's next up on parole in, like, 2018.
Like this year?
Yeah. Yep. So I don't know what's happening with that, but I know...
How old is he? He's got to be into his 60s now then, yeah?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not like... I keep reading all the articles, like... People are worried about it.
And how many kids was it again? 16, did you say?
26.
26.
And the bus driver.
And the bus. 27 total.
Yeah.
That's a lot of goddamn hostages.
It is.
Wow.
Yeah, it's nuts.
Thank you,
But,
Curtis.
Yeah, it's just kind of freaked me out. It's one of those things. I have kids now, so...
Yeah.
It makes you worry because maybe you think it won't happen in a small town like that, but it can.
It totally can.
Yeah.
So, stay out of Chowtown, y'all.
Yeah.
Man.
Tip your bus drivers, too.
Yeah,
That guy saved 26 kids.
Yes. So thank you, Curtis. That was a very good story, man.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Let's get back into Hadden Clark, you guys. What say you?
I'm ready to win.
Before we continue here, Michael 750, Curtis 750, Paul 500 points. Anybody's game. 6 questions to go. So if you'll remember correctly, his brothers just asked Hadden to move from the house because he got caught masturbating in front of his niece and nephew. Reasonable response and perfect time to ask somebody to move out of your house. Mm-hmm. Just down the street, there was a young girl named Michelle Dorr. Michelle Dorr was at her father's house, and her father was going through a really bad divorce at the time. She was there, and it was like a super hot day, so he filled up a little pool in the backyard and let her play in the backyard while he was watching the Indy 500, and he was checking on her every 15 or 20 minutes. And I think he sort of admits it. He might have let a little more than 15 or 20 go by before he went out and checked on her, and she was gone. So they look for her. He goes down the street to her friend Elizabeth's house, and no one's there but Hadden Clark. And he's like, I haven't seen anybody, sorry. And he goes all around, and he finally reports her missing like 4 hours later after he's done like his looking. And the police are like on top of his shit with it. But on the day, it's actually Hadden Clark who murdered Michelle Dorr with a 12-inch chef knife. He first just slashed at her back, slashing a Z into her skin. So yes, he exsanguinated poor Michelle into the basement drain. He attempted to rape her and was unsuccessful. He buried her in the woods in Baltimore in Old Columbia Pike. But before he does any of this, he had the taste of her flesh. So whether this was of his own devices or possibly inspired by his older brother, Brad, at any rate, his parents have now raised 2 murderers and cannibals.
Smart.
Officially now, you know what I'm saying?
Successful.
June 8th of 86, Hadden is summoned to the police station to be questioned about the death of Michelle Dorr. Police say he seemed very nervous from the get-go. They were very suspicious of him, as well as the father of Michelle. I think his name's Carl Dorr. They decided to bring Hadden in because he had a reputation in the neighborhood of being just a particularly weird guy, including the fact that he once killed and slaughtered a rabbit in front of some neighborhood kids. They decided to just ask him a few questions. Speaking of which, question number 7, they ask him point blank, what did you do to that girl? What did he do? I'm going to give you 4 options. Choose 2 of them. This one could be for up to 500 points. Of these 4 options, 2 of them are things that he did when asked. Let's call them nervous reflexes. Did he A, throw up, B, cry, C, have a panic attack, or D, piss his pants? throw up, cry, panic attack, piss his pants. 2 of these happened. 2 of them did not. Curtis says cry and pee. Michael says cry and throw up. Paul says pee and panic attack, throw up and panic attack. So, the first things he did when asked were begin to cry and run to the bathroom and throw up. So what do we got? 250 here? Right? Did you get them both?
You get half points.
Yeah, Michael got all of them. 500. 250 for Curtis. 250 for Paul. Michael's going to take sole possession of the lead. All right, Paul's got 750. Curtis has 1,000. And Michael has 1,250. Plenty of time left, guys. Even for you, Paul.
Paul ain't
Believe
shit.
it
He
or
ain't gonna
not.
get nothing.
So we've got 5 questions to go. 1,250, 1,750. Let's do it to it, boys. When he's questioned about it, yes, he cries and runs to the bathroom and throw up. From the stalls, he yells, I may have done something I don't remember. Sometimes I black out and do things I can't remember.
We've all been there.
Yeah. But he had an alibi because at the time that Carl Dorr, the father, said that his daughter was missing, that time was made up for by the fact that Hadden Clark was at work and he had punched in. There was evidence that... So Carl Dorr's timeline of things gave Hadden Clark an alibi. So it's safe to say now in retrospect that Carl Dorr's frame of when the last time he had seen his daughter was very far off. Yes, Paul, you seemed like you had a question there.
No, I was just gonna basically get to where you got to, but you got there before I did.
Yep, seemed like maybe he was watching that race a little longer than he admitted, and it's the backyard. You don't think your kid's gonna disappear out of the backyard? I'll be I don't leave my kid out there for hours or anything, but I definitely expect them to be there every time I poke my head out. So yes. He's screaming from a goddamn stall that he blacks out and does things, and the alibi is accepted, and pretty much Hadden is gonna walk away from this pretty scot-free. The father, Carl, was probably the lead suspect anyway from the get-go. The police said he both looked and acted guilty from the beginning. Carl said that police at one point told him, "You're guilty, and when we find the body, we're coming to pick you up." They ran him through a polygraph test. I mean, when someone goes missing, it's always the loved ones. That's like number one who they talk to. But I guess in this divorce, it was a particularly disgusting divorce, and Carl said some pretty regrettable things about possibly hurting his daughter. He claims that never in a million years would he have ever done those things, but it's just something he wanted to say to hurt his wife. So there's these things out there, none of them look good for Carl. So don't fucking say things you don't mean, people. You know what I'm saying? Think before you speak.
I feel like if you're ever just pulled in for questioning, especially for murder, maybe just be quiet.
Maybe just don't puke.
Well, sometimes you gotta puke.
November of
Probably always ask for a lawyer.
November of 1987, Hadden is going to be stopped for speeding. He's over the legal limit by 10 miles an hour in Montgomery County, Maryland. This is going to be recurring theme. I'm not sure why, but he's going to get pulled over and get like 7 speeding tickets over like the next 2 years. No incident comes of it, but he's a pretty reckless individual no matter when you're talking about him. In March of 88, he stopped again for speeding over the legal limit by 15 miles per hour or more in Montgomery County. Summer of 88, he is staying in the basement of a home of a couple that allowed him to rent it after his brother threw him out. At the end of his lease term there, they're like, cool, we're not going to renew your lease, though, so you got to go from here. And so what he did, super reasonable, like, why wouldn't you?
He found a raccoon, befriended them, lived in the woods.
How did you know?
I wrote it.
No. So he booby traps their home. He left newspaper-wrapped fish around the house, amongst other things. Like, I think they said he's put a 10-gallon drum of oil over one of the doors so it would fall on them when they opened it. He took, like, the fish heads and he hid them throughout. Like, he hid them in a piano, behind a heavy bookcase, up in the ceiling. So he was not stoked that they were kicking him out. So he's kind of like crashing with his mom for a little while. in September of 88, his mom confronts him for stealing items from her home in Rhode Island. He doesn't have a lot of money, so this is an easy way for him to make a buck. He decided he didn't like the way his mother was talking to him, so he decided he needed to retaliate.
Smart.
Question number 8. In what way does he retaliate? Does he A, beat his mother, B, steal all of her stuff, C, throw a rock through her window, D, kill her dog? Beat his mother, steal all of her stuff, throw a rock through the window, or kill her dog. Paul says steal her things. Both Curtis and Michael say kill her dog. But you're all wrong again, because he knocks his mom down to all fours and begins kicking her until she could not get up. He then attempted to run her over with his truck, at which point she got one last burst of energy and was able to get out of the way. Yeah, what a fuckface.
So this is when he escalated.
He's slowly been escalating the whole time, but yeah, it's moment. He's killed a child. He's tried to now kill his mother. The next day, his mother presses charges of assault and battery. He gets 1 year probation from a Rhode Island judge for beating his mom. Mother writes a letter telling him that she will pretend he is dead and does not love him anymore. So she's officially disowning him. Yeah, at this point, I believe that she may do so, and nobody will show her any ill will for that.
And at this point, besides the kid, you said he later confessed to several other killings. How many killings total does he have at this point?
It's one of those serial confessor things. So, the totals say between 2 and 18, I believe, is his,
Okay.
All
right. But only
like
just
all
the
of
kids
us. Think
confirmed.
about it.
We'll keep it going. We'll keep it going.
All right.
So, he is going to be pulled over on December 25th for speeding again, and he's going to have an unregistered loaded .38 caliber Astra handgun, and it was found in his car. He walked away with a suspended sentence and probation. He's going to, for this, he's going to have to go to church. For this, he's going to have to go to court and get a combined charge for this and destruction of property pending for the booby trapping of his landlord, the Mahaney family home. Remember, he rented the basement from them. The 10-gallon oil place over the step, so it would be spilled when opened, sprayed black dye on the living room carpet, rotting fish heads put into pianos, chimney and stove, and killed the family cats, placing one in the oven and one on the welcome mat. He also stole inconsequential items. So there's the full list.
He's a little petty.
That's
Yeah.
it.
Little. In 1980, late 88, he's charged with destruction of property, pleading guilty to all part and deal with the unlicensed loaded handgun offense. So he gets a destruction of property. They drop the unlicensed handgun. He's going to serve no jail time for this.
Good for him.
So this is every fucking episode. They're just they commit crimes and get no punishment, and
Makes them feel invincible.
And then you do what?
You kill some more people.
Yeah, you escalate.
With the raccoon.
Yes, Paul really wants him to
Let
bring
go
the
of the
raccoon
raccoon
back
already.
into this. Yeah.
Let it go.
I'll never let go of the raccoon.
So in mid-89, he visits a local veterans hospital, but he leaves immediately after being admitted because a doctor says he has psychosis with questionable etiology. In February of 89, he's arrested and charged with 17 counts of criminal indictment. 15 of them are for theft and possession of controlled paraphernalia. He often dressed as a woman, and during this time, he would go around to churches and steal purses and coats from all of the local churches. When pulled over by the police, they found a black gun holster hanging from a seatbelt, women's wigs and dresses, syringes, and a bundle of cash. In 89, he pleaded guilty on 2 counts of theft, one over $300 and one under $300, and sentenced to 18 months. But the judge then suspended part of his sentence. Question number 9. How much of the 18 months would he serve after that part was suspended? So how long is he going to be in? This is open-ended. Closest to the answer gets 250 points. If you nail it, it's for 1,000. Curtis says
1.5 months.
1.5 months. Michael says no time. Paul says 3 months. I'm going to give Curtis 1,000 points because he spent 45 days in jail. I would call that 1.5 months.
Depends on the month.
No, I'm calling it 1.5
What if
months
there's
and
31
rewarding
days?
Curtis 1,000 points for that answer.
God, it hurts to be so good.
Son of a bitch.
Congratulations, Curtis, on a large lead now at 2,000 points.
I'd like to file a formal protest.
Still not out of it. Yeah, file it with at Hella Greg.
Can I do it right now?
Yeah, he's at a Ludacris concert, so I don't know if he's going to reply. So
or the chopper thing, remember?
I'm not 100% sure how the rest of the questions go. Paul might be mathematically eliminated from a victory. Michael,
Nope.
not yet. Let's see how we do here. So he's going to serve 45 days in jail before his bond is posted. He later boasted that he did it on purpose because of the cold February weather. So he's...
Just got an excuse for everything.
Yes, exactly. He's given 3 years probation because they found him to have serious mental problems. The lawyer had him carrying around a get-out-of-jail-free card. Essentially, police were unable to arrest him due to his mental condition, his multiple charges that he had been dropped and not served any time for, and the fact they didn't want to lose any chance at something more serious if they needed. In 1992, Penny Howdeling hires him as a gardener. Apparently, Hadden was quite a good gardener, too. He becomes quite attached to Penny in a motherly kind of way. He begins to see Penny as his mother, and she is quite motherly to him. During the time that he worked there, she would often feed him and be extra overly nice to him, and at some point, he would even have a key to the place so he can complete work when she was not there. Penny notices her things like her pearls, underwear, and clothing starting to go missing slowly, but she didn't think too much of it. Penny's daughter Laura would return home from Harvard. Hadden becomes very jealous of Laura's connection with Penny because he wants that connection that she has with her fucking mom. So this is this is how we know this guy's sick, right? He's like, why is she so close to her daughter? I thought she was my mommy. So he's gonna aim to seek revenge. October 14th, 1992, he purchases 2 rolls of duct tape, braided rope, a nylon cord, and next to the memo on the check that he paid for it all, he wrote, Laura.
That's a good day, though.
Yes, it is. It is a very good
Those
day.
items can be used for so many things.
No. October 14th. Great day.
Yeah. 2 rolls of duct tape, braided rope, and nylon cord. Yes, but you fucking write Laura in the memo line, and you're kind of giving away your intentions with these particular items.
You have to keep proper records in your checkbook.
October 18th, 1992.
For the accountant.
Yeah, I was
the
going to say,
accountant.
spoken like a true accountant. He breaks into the house. Well, it's not really breaking into the house. He knew where a spare key was. He didn't have a key at this time, but he knew that they kept one in the tool shed. He is dressed in Penny's clothing and has a wig on, wakes up Laura and asks what she's doing in her bed. He's pretending to be Laura. Laura asks, Hadden, what are you doing? And Hadden says to her, call me Laura. He forces Laura to undress and take a bath, which a cleansing ritual you might find in some serial killers. He had an unloaded .22 caliber rifle, but how was she to know? He then bound her wrists with duct tape, then her ankles, and they spoke for hours in bed. So he just laid her in bed, tied up, and they just sat there and spoke for hours. At dawn, Hadden considered leaving, but realized that he was too far in, so he beat her for a while. And while trying to decide what he was going to do, he began to cover her face, eyes, mouth, nose, and head with duct tape, and eventually she would suffocate. So she is dead there. He kind of accidentally killed her while trying to figure out what to do.
Right.
Pillow talk gone wrong.
Yeah,
Happens
so
all the time.
before the sun comes up, he goes out and throws her in the car. She would not show up for work 2 days later on Monday and would be officially considered missing. A neighbor claims to have seen her leave the house the morning after she went missing, but she was especially cold that morning. And I don't mean cold in the chilly way. I mean that Laura is normally very friendly and waves to the neighbor, but on this particular morning, Laura was walking out, kind of head down, beelining out. So the neighbor claims to have seen her. This was most likely Hadden in drag. So the police found multiple hairs in Laura's brush that were synthetic and came from a wig. Days later, Police find a bloody pillowcase that matches Laura's blood type. Additionally, when they took it and compared it to the pillowcases on her bed, it matched exactly. The pillowcase also had fingerprints that they were able to pull and hair fibers that would end up matching Hadden Clark's.
How do you pull fingerprints off a pillowcase?
They're imprinted in the blood.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
That was a better answer than I was going to give.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's why you shouldn't give answers.
That's why I don't host a show.
Yeah.
So they bring him in. They started to question him pretty intensely, and they cannot get him to answer anything. He's sitting in his chair, listening to the detectives while singing aloud. I actually grabbed a clip. I don't do this a ton, but I got something for you guys here. Yep. Hadden, while he's being interviewed, he's like sitting there, like singing. He's very childlike, which he's not. He's supposedly he's not very overall intelligent, but they said he had. There were places where he was very like at chess. He was like a savant, but there were other places where he like couldn't operate a butter knife. I don't know about that as a specific example.
Some of the
but
smartest people I know often have like dumb skills like that. Where they
there's just something
fail
that they're
on
just
other
not
sparks.
good at. I just recently read an article about this guy who had like 4 PhDs and 3 masters, and in 2007 he died. He drowned because he never learned to swim.
Sheldon.
Yes, spread it out, everybody. Spread it out. So, okay,
Dr. Cooper, I believe.
this is Hadden Clark sitting in the interview room. It's gonna have a little documentary music behind it, I'm sure. But here you go.
He's still working on me to make me what I ought to be. I know what's going on. I'm not talking about nothing, because my lawyer told me not to. I told you honestly, I answer some of your questions, whatever you want to answer. But some questions I'm not going to answer. That's just the way it is.
Smart.
It sounds like a comedy sketch.
And
Also-
that's just the way it is. And he goes like this right there.
If somebody put an auto-tune behind that, we got a hit.
There you go. So somebody can make that happen for us. That'd be wonderful.
And send it back in.
Yeah, so that, I mean, and he goes on with that hymn, like, God's still working on me.
That's what I'm saying. That's the chorus.
So I can still be how I be, or whatever, you know. He's like, at the end, he's like, He is the potter, I am the clay. Like, it's so bizarre that, like, that's what he's gone to when he's chilling in the investigatory room for a small child's
When he went
murder.
to a
I think it was an
similar
act.
college,
He
I
just
think.
started playing into that. Like,
He is
broken
a
thing.
paranoid, schizophrenic, delusional.
Diagnosed or just like played into it?
Diagnosed, so he's big time diagnosed. He's been doing it. Have you been paying attention, Curtis? Come
No,
on.
He's a lot of
I always
diagnosed.
zone in for the questions. That's all I'm here for.
In 1993, he's 42 years old. He's going to plead guilty to the second-degree murder of Laura Howdeling. Question 10. What would be his sentence for this crime? Is it A, 30 years, B, 30 years, B, 40 years, C, 25 to life, or D, life? 30 years, 40 years, 25 to life, or life? Oh, okay. I was like, what the fuck? We've got 325 to lives.
Hey, guys, I got him.
Paul wrote C, S-E-E.
Got him. Nailed it.
Got him good.
So everybody goes 25 to life on the second-degree murder charge in Maryland. Nobody's scoring points on this one because he gets a 30-year sentence. Let me double-check here.
Paul's winning still.
No.
Nope, there's still a chance for
Paul to win.
There
Michael-
technically is, Paul. You're going to need to nail the next question, though.
Nail it.
Yep.
Which you haven't done already.
Michael, for you to win, you will also need to nail this question. But if you nail this question, you'll take the lead.
Ooh.
Okay, so
Can we get
Unless I, of
over
course,
there
nail
already?
it.
he
also.
he
And me
is
and you, we've been on the same page.
he's tried for a 30-year sentence, but there's no multiple choice on it. So, 1999, he's 48 years old. He is tried for stealing from the Mahoney family, whose house he had also booby-trapped and left dead fish. So apparently there was some theft that he was also charged for here. He's going to receive a 10-year sentence for that. He's also officially tied to and tried for the murder of 5-year-old Michelle Dorr. Question number 11. How many years would he receive for that crime? Closest to the answer gets 250 points.
Did they ever find the body on that?
Yes, we'll talk about that after, but I'll give you that. That is a good question. Okay, Michael, you didn't nail it. I'm sorry. Damn. I'm sorry. Paul,
You
you
look
said
so stupid.
Paul said 33 years. Michael said 20 years. Curtis said they gave him a life. But Maryland stayed true, as this was also a second-degree crime. They gave him an additional 30-year sentence. So Paul is going to get 250 points on that one. He's going to break 1,000 here today.
Here I come, guys.
Nope.
There's going to be a bonus question that you don't know about.
One freaking question left.
You don't know about the bonus question.
There's no bonus question.
You guys are fighting
Come
for
on,
second.
give me a bonus
That's all I'm
question,
saying.
man.
Curtis, you have won this. Congratulations. Good
Redemption
job.
tastes so sweet.
Paul, let's see if you can get one more score at the end here, just
I would like
for
that.
funsies. But everybody broke 1,000 tonight. That's fun. Can't say that for last week. January of 2000, he's going to lead police to Michelle's body. This is after he's charged, by the way. So he was charged with this second degree prior to them finding the body. January 2000, he led police to Michelle's body 14 years after her death. So probably for 14 years, Carl Dorr was like, oh, that guy killed his fucking daughter. Like, oh my God, you guys see that guy? He killed his daughter. That guy probably did not lead a very normal life after no killer was arrested. He was the number one suspect, and his daughter's body never turned up.
Yeah.
So 14 years later, he would finally get some vindication. Yeah, he's going to lead police to the body. He told them that she was buried under a mattress. Detective Ed Tarney was walking. He tripped over something that he thought was a twig sticking out of the ground and realized that it was a spring. The cloth from the mattress had deteriorated. They pulled the springs away and began to dig. Clark even jumped in and helped police dig up the body of 5-year-old Michelle Dorr. Between January and April of 2000, he leads police to an additional victims around the sand dunes in Cape Cod, unsuccessful due to the shifting of the sand. The only way he would go out and try to find more bodies for them is if they agreed to buy him a wig, a bra, and a pair of panties that he could wear while he went out, because he couldn't get that stuff in prison. So they agreed and bought it for him. Ed Tarney had to go out and buy women's underwear, a bra, and a wig for Hadden Clark to wear while they walked around and looked for bodies out on the beach.
I feel like I would have just asked for a steak.
Yeah, so he can't pinpoint exactly where he believes that he buried some of the bodies between the passage of time and the changing of the landscape. Or he's a serial confessing piece of shit. December 15th, 2000, he's 49 years old. He's going to lead police to his grandfather's estate, where they find a large bucket of about 200 pieces of women's jewelry. Several items belong to Laura Houdeling. Clark claimed the collection was taken from his victims over the years. Question number 12. In what year did Hadden Clark die? Is it 2005, 2009, 2015, 2018, or still alive? 5 options on this one. 05, 09, 15, 18, or are you still kicking?
Same again?
05, 09, 15,
You've already won,
18,
just don't answer.
still alive.
Asshole.
Curtis wants to stretch it out if he can. What do we got? Curtis says
09.
that he died in 09. Michael and Paul both say that he is still alive, and they will get a little bit of redemption points at the
A little
end.
bit of redemption.
Michael's going to end it with 1,500 points. Paul is going to end it with 1,250. Curtis is your champion with 2,000 points. The
Fist pump.
1,000 guess practically won it for you, Cuddy.
Yeah.
Surprise bonus
Not
question.
practically, it definitely did.
It made the difference. So,
That's all that matters.
congratulations to you, my friend. You are the winner.
Thank you.
How much did you
It's
pay?
I'd like to thank my children and my wife for
Don't
really
give Paige
supporting
any
me.
credit for this.
Supporting me.
Paige
On
did
this run.
nothing tonight.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
On your one winning streak.
Yeah.
Cool. Good.
You know,
Glad.
everyone's got to start somewhere.
You garbage.
Is there anything you guys want to throw out there before we wrap up tonight? Anything you'd like to share? Any cause you'd like to put out there? Social media? Anything? Now's your chance. Spill your guts.
I will come for the biggins, both the Bigfoot and the Sasquatch. They will get theirs.
I was going to say, not a lot of rebuttal from you this
It
episode.
will come.
All right.
It will come.
It's going to be a slow roll, Dustin and Bigfoot. Be ready for it. Cuddy, anything?
No, I'm just gonna enjoy my victory.
Curtis taking a silent victory lap. Michael, anything you'd like to share tonight?
Throw me on with Bigfoot so I can whip his ass.
Michael formally challenging Bigfoot. It sounds like I need to book an episode in December that will be Bigfoot, Michael, and Paul. So we're going to make that happen probably before these dudes leave here tonight. Thank you, everybody, for coming out. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Curtis. Thank you, Michael. And thank you, everybody, for listening to episode 67 of the Serial Chillers podcast.
Yeah, bye.
Thank you, everybody, for listening. That was episode 67. Thank you to Michael, Paul, and Curtis for coming out. Congratulations to Curtis on your victory. Reach out to the show, guys. You can do it in a ton of ways. Serial Chillers Podcast on Facebook. Facebook group is Serial Chillers Podcast. Come join us. Good people there. Good people. The Instagram is at Serial Chillers Podcast. Twitter is at Chillers Podcast. The email address is serialchillerspodcast@gmail.com. You can get some merchandise at serialchillerspodcast.threadless.com. Rate and review on everything, please. Apparently, it's very helpful. Patreon.com/serialchillerspodcast to give to the show. Everybody who's listening to this, if you're listening to it the day it came out, tonight at 8 o'clock, West Coast, we'll be doing a $100 drawing. Everybody who is a Patreon patron at that point will be entered into that drawing to win $100. So, we're trying to give back a little bit. Also trying out a little shorter outro and no intro. Let me know what you guys think of that. And really appreciate the support. Thank you for listening to episode 67. And remember, don't talk to strangers.
You've just listened to another podcast by Super Network.